it's Will from Next Performance, and we are at my home gym, thanks to the coronavirus, stuck at home. And today I'm going to talk about, answer some questions from belts. These are my 3 belts that I've used throughout my powerlifting career at the moment. And yeah, we get a lot of questions on belts. Had a few lately on, should I wear a belt? Should I use a belt for this reason? Shouldn't I use a belt for this reason? When is it appropriate to not use a belt? Why does somebody use a belt in competition? Why didn't somebody else not use a belt in competition? Lots of pretty generic, broad questions, and a hard place to answer in terms of when other people are using them, but we'll give it a go. So firstly, we'll go into what a belt does. So anybody that's worn a belt and used it somewhat properly and consistently knows that you can typically, for the most part, brace a little bit better. You can increase intra-abdominal pressure. You have something to press out against. It gives a little bit of sensory feedback. As it touches the sides, you can feel it slip up, slip down, feel if there's a gap, that sort of things if you've used it enough and consistently enough. And it's going to help highlight to you on a sensory awareness type level, you know, how you're bracing and how much pressure you're bracing with. So it's going to help that. It's going to help that. It's going to help stabilize the spine through that. And it's going to make you a stronger, more efficient, better lifter in a lot of ways. It's also very specific to powerlifting, as in like we can use one in competition. We're always going to be able to use one in competition in any federation. So there isn't a huge reason to not use one. And the people that, the very finite, the very small list of reasons why you wouldn't use one, powerlifters don't usually fall into that category. For the most part, you should almost always be wearing a belt when things get heavy, especially on squats, especially on deadlifts. Belts a bit more of a bit more into it as far as the topic goes, and some accessories. It is going to make you better, stronger. Like I said, you're going to use it in competition, so there isn't a real reason. There's not a lot of reasons to not wear one. The only reasons when I wouldn't wear one would be maybe if you've come out of a comp prep or you're going through a phase where things are beat up, where things got like issues with knees, hips, things are just beat up in general. You need a little bit of a deload from really heavy work, and by doing it, it's going to limit the amount of weight that you can use, and maybe you can get away with doing a little bit more volume or a little bit different volume, or and kind of increase your recovery that way. So that would be the reason for it. If you see people doing it, however, you could do that other ways as well. You could manipulate training variables. You could manipulate your longer term plan in a way that does that anyway. So I think a lot of people just do it because they enjoy it. As for the people that do it in competition, such as Yuri Belkin on his deadlifts, usually very upright, very good at bracing as it is, doesn't need a whole lot of support in the way that he lifts like that, and he might have trained without one for a long time and find that it just compromises his position. So that would be my, to be honest, guess towards that, as obviously I haven't asked him. On a bench press, as I mentioned, a couple little things that can be an issue there is that most people are trying to get somewhat of an arch. If you're not trying to get an arch, even if it's a small arch in powerlifting, it's you probably should be. You probably should be. It's going to help you get a bigger bench press as far as 1RMs go. So a belt can often put us in a compromised position where we can't get as much of that arch, or that we're getting that arch in a different way that isn't really helping us lift a bigger weight. So for the most part, I think most people would tend to slide in the side of not using a belt when they bench. But I mean, it's going to be trial and error to some degree. You're going to have to try both. You have to, over a long period of time, and see which one's stronger, which one's better for you. But for the most part, I would be pushing people towards not having one, because I would be pushing people to get in that arch in their bench press, and to utilize leg drive in a way that takes advantage of that position. But I have got some questions. I've got some questions that people have sent through, some of the more general questions people have sent through. On the topic of belts, on the topic of beltless training even. So I'm just going to go through them quickly and quickly cap off on them. I've already covered a few right there, but people that compete without a belt, why? Straight up, that's what I just covered before. At what point do you use a belt? I have a feeling this one is more towards like warm-ups. Usually I will warm up to 60, 65, 70%, depending on obviously the rep range that I'm using. Usually like, I'm gonna say 2 warm-ups from my working weight. I'm gonna be using a belt from there onward. So if I'm doing a squat with 300 kilos, I'll probably warm up to 200, 220 without a belt and go. It's more of a confidence thing. I'm just going to use a belt on those low weights not because like, oh, I have to go beltless, it's gonna help me switch on to my abs or increase my ab strength or anything like that. It's more like, I don't need it. I don't need it for these weights. I can feel things. There's just no need to chuck it on for that point. So I don't. Unfortunately, the answer is as simple as that there. Next up, we've got, does beltless training carry over to main lifts? Of course it does. Squat's a squat, bench, deadlift, whatever. If my beltless squat goes up, you're going to see your belted squat go up. It's a squat strength, it's an overall movement. It's the whole system that's happening there. A belt is just, like I said, it's just feedback for you to brace better. It helps increase that intra-abdominal pressure, but you should be doing that on your own anyway. If there's a big gap between your belted and beltless work, you're probably doing it wrong anyway. Yeah, for the most part, absolutely. And if you belt it on the same way, if your belted squat goes up, your beltless squat is probably going to go up as well. They're big, very complex lifts. It's not that the belt is like the piece that glues it all together or anything. Training your core, I think this one goes towards as in like, will beltless training make my core stronger? No. Training your core will make you stronger. Putting your body in positions during lifts that make your quote unquote core do its job the way it should be will make it stronger. We don't need, not having a belt is not going to make it stronger. In fact, having a belt and learning to use your abs and brace and create that a little bit more of intra-abdominal pressure is probably going to make your core stronger through that specific movement. So no, short answer, either train your abs in multiple different ways, in the ways that should act, and put your body in positions that allow it to do so. Adding fatigue to the system, doesn't have percentage. Yeah, like I said, it's you can use a belt. It's probably going to bring back your theoretical estimated 1 RM for that session 5-10%, which means that the volume that you're going to be doing is going to be 5-10% lower, and might beat you up a bit less. And from that, improve your recovery from that session. But like I said, you can do that in other ways too. Beltless for accessory work, absolutely. Other than like really heavy, like close variations of the comp, like stiff leg deadlifts, pause squats, things like that. For accessory lifts outside of that, I don't really see a huge need for it. Like on a lot of my accessory work, I want to be like kind of twisting. I want to be able to move through the midsection. I don't want to be locked in like I do during comp lifts. I want to be able to move and get free and have range of motion, like move through different ranges, through different joints, and stay healthy. If I walk around like a robot just locked in 100% of the time, not only on my comp lifts but on all my accessory work, I'm going to lose ranges pretty damn quick and I'm going to be locked up. So I would be like, for most people, saying don't use it where you don't need it. Let your body move in the way it wants to move, and you'll be a healthier, better lifter for it. Yeah, and that's our question. That's our questions on beltless, belted training. It's more of a, I don't feel this is a like yes or no answer. As I said, of many reasons that come into it. I personally don't do it. I personally don't program my clients for it. We use other methods, but it's not to say it can't work if done in a smart way. So if anybody else has any thoughts on it, comments on it, questions on it, comment on this video or shoot us an email, and I'll do my best to clarify things for you.